What's going on, Jerome? So we know that Minnesota Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah ain't shy about wheeling and dealing, even in division. And the Vikings currently having only, technically 4 draft picks, probably going to get a 5th-rounder compensatory pick, but having 1, 3, 4, 5, 5, that dog ain't going to hunt. So the Vikings could and should be looking to for other ways to add some draft capital to the mix. And kind of sucks, again, but winds of change are coming for the Vikings this offseason. I think there's going to be a lot of veterans cut, but just wanted to gauge, take the temperature of the trade market rectally and estimating some of the trade value of some of the existing Vikings on the roster. First up, offensive coordinator Wes Phillips. Now, hear me out. Now, I understand that Wes has already declined the opportunity to interview for the San Diego Chargers OC position. Assistant quarterbacks coach Jerome Johnson actually interviewed for that job, but Wes is like, nah, I like what we're building here, and Brandon Staley's probably going to get fired next year anyway, so whatever. But I don't know how it works with assistants. I imagine it's a similar mechanism to head coaches because head coaches can be traded, hence what's going on with Sean Payton right now. You know, what happened with John Gruden back in the day, what technically happened with Belichick back in the day. But Wes Phillips, I mean, could we just cajole a 7th rounder? And then Kevin O'Connell's like, hey, buddy, I understand that you want to be here. We literally traded your contract to the Chargers. I don't know, man. But, hey, like I said, Kwesi doesn't have a 7th-round pick. So how's he going to have an homage to Rick Spielman? I don't know. Anyways, some of the real ones. Actually, we'll leave that up. Screw it. First up, Kirk Cousins. Now, it's weird because obviously you want to run it back with Kirk. I think Kirk played the best ball of his career last year. 8 fourth-quarter game-winning drives, tied for NFL record. He fit hand in glove with Kevin O'Connell. He was not the problem, despite what people want to say about that final play against the Giants. So Kirk has never been more tradable, but he is 35 in August. Now his contract right now does taper off because he's only under contract right now for $35 million in 2023. So I think that would actually be a steal for most teams, especially considering his base salary. So I think that if the Vikings wanted to move from Kirk, they could probably do it now. Although, what are you going to get in return for a 35-year-old quarterback? Plus, teams may be wary about putting big picks out there, seeing what happened with the Russell Wilson trade and the Broncos last year. But I think that you could elicit a 2nd-round pick from a team that doesn't want to go all in on Rodgers, a team that doesn't get Tom Brady in free agency. So, I mean, looking at the Colts, hey, Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay, holla at me. That's right. But again, I'm not saying that's going to happen because I think that they're firmly committed to Kirk Cousins, as well as, even getting back into the 2nd round, even if it's a premium 2nd-round pick, I don't know. Like, then you're going to package him up and move up for one of the big 4 quarterbacks, or maybe take Tanner McKee in the end of the 1st. Next up, running back Dalvin Cook, none. We've already covered this. I actually don't think that Dalvin has any trade value, despite some Vikings fans on social media thinking that, maybe the Vikings will get a 2 or a 3 out of him. No, I think the fact that he's going to be 28 in August, as well as the fact that he's due a $10.4 million base salary next year, no one's going to trade for that. It ain't going to happen. So I think the Vikings, absent Dalvin taking a massive pay cut, I think he's going to be cut in the offseason. Next up, wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Now, I'm not advocating it, obviously, and also I feel kind of bad putting this energy out in the universe, but his trade value would be 3 ones plus a couple starters. I mean, it's possible. I think that given his age, given the fact that he's on his rookie deal, I think that he easily could eclipse the Russell Wilson trade compensation. So basically what Kwesi is going to do, all the draft picks ever created by man, and then you can get Justin Jefferson. And that's the opening bid, and it's going to go up from there. All right, so 3 firsts and a couple starters, maybe, or it's so dumb. Do you do this to get enough draft capital to move up to take your quarterback of the future, but then your quarterback will not be throwing at Justin Jefferson? And also, do you trade Kirk? Oof, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Actually, let's move on. Back to reality. Whoop, there goes gravity. Wide receiver Adam Thielen. Now, Thielen is 33 in August, does have a big base salary, so I don't think that he's necessarily viable in the trade market. So even though I think that he does still have some good football left in him, maybe a conditional 6, something late on day 3 could be feasible or reasonable, especially teams that have been bereft of wide receivers. You look at the Ravens. Hell, you look at the Giants. You look at the Packers. No, never happening. Never. I mean, could you imagine just the bad karmic juju that the Vikings would have by trading Thielen to the Packers? My God. No, that would be no good. Now, I do think that it's a possibility that Thielen returns on a pay cut, but we'll see. Next up, left tackle, Ezra Cleveland. So I say left tackle because I think Ezra is still playing out of position. Like, God love him, he tries. I just don't think that he's cut up out to be an interior offensive lineman. And again, the only reason that he kicked inside, because remember, he was a second-round pick out of Boise State in 2020. And yes, they played him inside, but that's because they had Riley Reif out there. But I mean, he kicked inside because the Vikings took Christian Darrisaw in the first round, and you're not going to displace him. So, I mean, and also you have Brian O'Neill at right tackle, so he wasn't going to swing out there. But I think that a left tackle needy team could potentially move in on Ezra, where a lot of teams I'm sure had dossiers on Ezra that maybe they saw him as a late first-round pick or an early second-round pick. So maybe they could give up some draft capital to go get him, and the Vikings get a third out of it. Now, I understand what you're saying, but by trading Ezra, you're just opening up another hole, which is ironic because the Vikings offensive line didn't do much of that this year, especially in the interior. But if you're going to start over inside and rebuild a bully, like 330 pounds minimum on the inside, Ezra, I love him as an uber athletic offensive lineman, but also I think he's playing out of position. I think he knows it too. Plus, there's way more money at the left tackle position versus being a left guard. So I think his agent certainly would like to see him move out to the blind side with another team. Next up, edge rusher Danielle Hunter. So again, this one hurts. This one stings. But Danielle, he needs a new contract. He's due to make a $4.9 million base salary next year. That ain't going to happen. So I think that the Vikings either have to trade or extend Danielle. And he's going to be 29 in October. He's still firmly in his prime. Show that he's healthy again after missing all of 2020 with the herniated disc in his neck and then missing a fistful of games last year with the torn pec. But I see this going down like the Bradley Chubb trade, where it was Bradley Chubb and a 5th for Chase Edmonds, a 1st and a 4th. I could see similar value there, or we've even thrown out, it's like, hey, Hunter for Trey Lance, the former number 3 overall pick, who the Niners traded up heaven and earth for, possibly. Who knows? But I mean, I think Kwesi certainly sees Danielle as an asset, and if he truly thinks that this defense is a teardown and rebuild, or if he really does have eyes for one of the top quarterbacks in this class, trading Danielle would be the fastest way to get that capital to make those moves that you need. Next up, sticking on the edge, DJ Wonnum. So who knows what the Vikings are going to do schematically, but DJ Wonnum is going to be heading into the final year of his rookie deal next year. He's 25 years young. He's a great situational edge rusher. I think that he could potentially be seen as a guy who's ready to spread his wings and potentially be a starter. Could the Vikings get a 4th rounder for him? It's possible. I think the Vikings, siding with youth as well as production, I think that they would rather have Patrick Jones II if they had to pick between him and Wonnum in terms of backup edge rushers. So I think the Vikings could get something out of DJ. Next up, safety Harrison Smith. So 4th round pick may be kind of rosy, considering Harrison does have a heavy-handed contract, as well as he's going to be 34 in February. But Harrison did have a mini career renaissance this year. 5 interceptions, played hard. I mean, learning a new scheme, playing out of position at times. Ed Donatel just did not allow him to do Harrison Smith things. But I do think that Harrison would have some interest around the league if he was indeed on the trade block. Now, I think that it's way more likely that he's back on a pay cut. But we'll see. Next up, cornerback Cameron Tiny Dantzler. All right, so Kwesi inherited Dantzler, and he re-signed Patrick Peterson. He signed Duke Shelley. Hopefully Duke Shelley's going to be back. And he drafted Andrew Booth Jr. in the 2nd. He traded up and drafted a Caleb Evans in the 4th round. He didn't draft Dantzler. And with Dantzler sort of vacillating in and out of the lineup this year, and essentially being benched in favor of Duke in favor of Duke Shelley late in the season, I mean, maybe a team around the league sees Dantzler as like, okay, we liked him in the draft process, giving up a early day 3 selection, a 4th rounder, a 5th rounder, somewhere in that neighborhood. Also, it was rumored a couple years ago that the Niners and John Lynch were interested in a trade for Cameron Dantzler. So, of course, that line of communication between Lynch and Kwesi would be pretty easy to exploit. Next up, quarterback Andrew Booth Jr. So I understand that in general, general managers are pretty stubborn with their picks. They want to give them every opportunity. And Booth being a second round pick, you would expect him, time for him to fly. But I don't know. If the Vikings go corner in this draft, which they certainly could, it's a very good cornerback class, and maybe Kwesi just like, all right, we took a shot on Booth. He couldn't stay healthy. Same old story. We'll try to unload him for whatever we can get. Getting a 5th round pick for Booth if essentially he goes into camp and you could potentially cut him. I mean, I guess that would be a pretty big win. Plus, he's only 22 years old. Lastly, put to Ryan Wright. So we're never going to give him up and we're never going to let him down. It's going to take Texas with a $. That's it. How much is it? You don't even know. If you have to ask, big man, you can't afford it. All right, so we ain't giving up Ryan Wright. But that's it. Let's take a look at some of the trade value of various Minnesota Vikings. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts. Too high, too low, just right. Mama bear, Papa bear, baby bear. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skull Production Value.